Day Street Books and Harper Audio present Sellout, the major label feeding frenzy that swept punk, emo, and hardcore, 1994 to 2007, by Dan Ozzi. Read by Chris Abell.
For Matt Siblo and Tammy Lynn Andrew, and for all the Saturday nights we spent in record stores while everyone else was doing whatever normal kids do. Rock and roll's a sacrifice. Single mother's womb. Introduction. They arrived with their business cards and with their checkbooks. They descended on dingy rock clubs and dimly lit bars. They talked a smooth game, and their shirts were tucked into their jeans. They were major label A&R scouts, and by 1993, they were everywhere. The punk scene had names for these sorts of people. They were the corporate villains mocked in song lyrics and torn apart in fanzines. They were called vampires and leeches, and their sole mission was to suck the life out of independent bands and leave them dry. They were the enemy. And now here they were in the flesh, on the lookout for fresh meat. This wasn't the first time that the majors had tried to sink their teeth into the genre. A&R reps had first come sniffing around punk rock during its birth in the mid-'70s, making unlikely stars of rock and roll's anti-heroes. Warner nabbed the Ramones, Virgin picked up the Sex Pistols, and CBS had the Clash. Punk infiltrated the system and planted its flag in pop culture. As it grew more popular, its countercultural ethos became part of the mainstream. But the moment was fleeting. After the punk explosion died out toward the end of the decade due to dwindling cultural cachet and the deaths of some of its figureheads, major labels largely left the underground alone. Once there was no more money to be wrung out of punk, they turned their focus to emerging genres like new wave, R&B, and glam metal. Throughout the 80s, few bands from the punk, hardcore, and alternative rock realms were even blips on the radars of major label A&R reps, and with good reason. Much of the music lacked commercial appeal, often deliberately so. Of the handful of bands that were palatable enough to get called up to the majors, Husker Du, The Replacements, Sonic Youth, none of them exactly proved themselves to be winning financial investments. Most were viewed internally at labels as prestige signings, a way for a company to buy themselves some cred and win the respect of critics. And so mainstream music and underground rock existed independently of each other for more than a decade without much overlap. On one end...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?